Hi guys, welcome back to Guild Chat. I'm your host Ruby, and we had a huge update this week, and this room is full of dev guests, so we're going to jump right in. I'll let you go ahead and introduce yourself first.
Hi everybody, I'm Mike
you're sitting
Zadorojny.
closest.
I'm the lead designer on Expansion 2.
I'm Byron. I'm a designer on the Raids team.
That's like the most serious thing you have said all day.
I'm trying to keep it in, right? I'm trying to lock it down for you, Ruby.
Why?
That's true. That's a
Okay.
good point.
Yeah, I was like, don't even bother. All right. So, in the context of this week's April
Right.
19th update, what was your role?
So we actually took the entire Expansion 2 team offline for a month to go back and work on the Heart of Thorns maps. So Verdant Brink, Arc Basin, Tangled Depths, and Dragon Sand. We had a lot of the senior people who were working on those maps beforehand, so it made sense for us to kind of go back and basically really look at how the reward systems were paid out, how the events were played into each other.
Because you guys knew the content
Right,
already.
exactly. So I was the representative from the Dragon Stand map from before launch, so that was mostly what I was focused on.
Yeah.
And then all of the new achievements for dungeons and the daily system and everything else like that.
Okay. Byron, what about you?
I actually did work on the raid lobby and the DPS instance, the Special Forces Training Arena for, I guess they called it the SFT as the acronym. And I also worked on
What
the
was that
LFG,
again?
The SFT.
Thank you.
And the LFG. I did a lot of sort of cleanup for
Yay.
that. So
He was also a consultant for the adventure changes.
I did do that.
Because that was your baby.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It was.
All right. So you had kind of a dual role, as you had to keep the Expansion 2 team on track.
Right.
Because eventually they did need to go back and do
Yeah.
their other work.
We at the very beginning of the process, we basically sat everybody down. We tried to look at like what were some of the changes that we can do that would be really impactful to the gameplay experience. Because ultimately, we kind of looked at three major goals for this patch. One was getting players to the fun faster. You saw that with some of the changes we made for waypoints being unlocked, access to the adventures more often, even to like the max level boost that we added, just allowing players to kind of get into the content. The other thing was making it feel more rewarding, and so you saw that from now each of the events during the kind of the first half or 3/4 of the maps.
Yeah.
During the daytime phase, so to speak, they're actually giving out bonus chests and those types of things. We added more experience from killing creatures, from adventures, from those types. So those were kind of the big things. And then the third one was just kind of giving us a chance to go back and really kind of put the fun back in and allow players to really choose how they were playing the game again. So.
Yeah, and we've heard a lot of good feedback from you guys as far as, okay, I'm going in, I can solo. You can do it again when we can see
All
you.
right. Okay. That's cool.
They're going back in, we can solo, we're getting rewards more often. I found it myself as I was playing. There were some more rewards. There were new rewards going in there. I mean, you get choices on map bosses now, and there's new goodies for your home instance.
Right. So we did add for the first three maps. Each had their kind of the unique chests were on there, like the airship cargo for Verdant Brink, and so you can now purchase one of those from the vendor for map currency and a little bit of gold. This will now show up permanently in your home instance once per day, and then we also kind of just like flooded the maps with all those chests as well, having them start showing up around where the events were taking place more often, and things like that. So it's just putting that more front and center, but then also for doing the events, giving you more of those keys like the crowbars, so you just have more loot coming in all the time.
Yeah, that felt good. More loot, but not more bags and bags and bags.
Yes,
I had to say it. I'm sorry.
No, it's true. It's true. So Josh actually did a pass over all the loot that we were giving out in the expansion, and actually made a conscious effort of trying to remove as much of those as possible. Mostly the bagception aspect of it is because it's very easy for us to give out more choices and more rewards to players. It just ends up feeling a little frustrating because there's that more inventory pressure associated with it and the extra clicking that has to go through. So again, like a lot of this thing for this new patch was for us to go back and really kind of look where the pain points were and really try and give a much smoother, more cleaner experience for the players.
Yeah. All right. So you've been in game? Everybody's had a couple days to play through things. I mean, we had the initial explosion of, oh my gosh, this is amazing on Tuesday, and that was really, really fun. But we've had a couple days to play through. Do you feel like everybody's still pretty happy with it?
Oh yeah.
What have you seen in game?
To be fair, I spent most of my time in the Fractals because now that the final collection for the Legendary Backpack is in, I'm working on that.
We've all got our things we're focusing
Right.
on.
But like I was in there this morning
That's right.
on the Chalk Jarrett and Tangled Depths and playing with the fans, and I mean the reception's been awesome, and hearing from you guys in terms of the feedback really kind of it's empowering to us because we know that cool, our work made a difference. People really care about what's going on and the changes that we're making. And again, I think sort of people were like, I hope the X-Pac 2 team is paying attention. Yes, we were, because we were the ones making the changes. So this will directly be going into impacting the stuff they're working on right now.
Speaking of, you also worked on the achievements.
Right.
We added a ton of new dailies.
Yeah. So, well, first and foremost.
How did you make these decisions? Okay, go ahead.
Well, the first thing is it came from, hey, we want achievements to be more rewarding, and we wanted to actually find a way that we could give a more steady stream of gold to players, especially those who don't necessarily have nearly as much time or can only play for in various spurts or those types of things. So the first thing we do is we added 2 gold to the daily meta. So completing any 3 achievements from anywhere in the game, from World versus World, PvP, or PvE, will now give you, the 2 gold meta, which is nice for the people who just need a little bit of extra boost.
Yeah.
And then we actually wanted to go back and add like the achievements for Heart of Thorns, because right now, up until launch, it was just all you had was the kind of the core basic ones. We sent you to the core Tyria maps and those types of things.
Right.
And now we actually added the support in there, so you can actually see like Verdant Brink at daily events or daily Vista in the Heart of Maguma. And then we were able to go in and we had time to be like, cool, we want to point people towards adventures because they're really cool. We can now have daily adventures show up as part of the rotation. And jumping puzzles are a really cool aspect of it as well. It's a cool exploration reward, but at the same time, there's a lot of players who just haven't had a chance to kind of experience it because they didn't even know it existed.
Right.
So we're allowing to kind of those can show up in the spotlight so that players can come together and help each other and go through those pieces of content.
Right. That older content in Corteria.
Right. So those mini dungeons added as well, and then one of the big key points for this patch was also giving a little up to the dungeon community. And we did it 2 ways. One is that now, like, you can actually have daily dungeons show up in the meta. Like, I believe today's right now is Ara. So, yeah, it's just go and complete any of the 1 paths in Ara.
Oh, is that all?
Yes, only 1.
No big deal. So I feel a little bit bad because last night in our guild chat after reset, one guy came in and, everybody's like doing their thing. There's a lot of people logged on. He was like, hey, who wants to run a Raw for the daily? And there was just like this deafening silence.
I
didn't feel bad enough to say anything.
I think it's going to take a little bit time for people to kind of get back into the swing of things.
Yeah.
I think, dungeons kind of fell out of the limelight. And so there's a lot of players who haven't run it or don't remember the strats or don't remember how to take full advantage of some of the mechanics in there. And so I think it's going to come back. Unfortunately, Raw was the first one that showed up. Would have been nicer if it had been one of the easier ones, but I think at the same time, it's cool to kind of allow that spotlight to show there, and then you're going to have a lot larger portion of the community that's trying to get in there and help each other and play that stuff. And then finally, the other thing that we did for dungeons is that 2 things. One, the number of the tokens, dungeon tokens that you get is actually been doubled for the first time you run through. So it's up to 80 now, up from 40. And then we added this new infinitely repeatable achievement so that for any 8 unique paths you do, we'll give you a choice of 150 tokens from whatever dungeon you want and 5 additional gold. So it just allows players, who
so little love to the dungeon.
Yes,
community.
exactly.
Just a tiny bit.
But like I saw in Pug My Guild, like there were a lot of people who were running dungeons last night and really getting into it again. So I'm excited to see kind of where that goes from there.
Yeah, and we'll get into dungeons a little bit more later. Back to achievements for just a second. You didn't include every jumping puzzle and every adventure.
That is true.
And for this, I personally thank you.
Yeah. So Not So Secret, thank you, Josh Foreman, is not in the rotation.
Okay, look, we're all just mesmer-porting to it anyway.
It is true, but it is one of the more complicated ones.
Josh.
Like there's tiers to it. It's a really fun jumping puzzle. I really like. If you haven't had a chance to go through it, I definitely recommend it. Gendarn Fields. It's really cool, but it is one of the most challenging ones that we put in there. And so like, there's a discussion about like there's some amount of time that a daily achievement is supposed to take, and there were a couple of those I was a little bit worried about them just being a little bit too complicated.
Yeah.
So like they're just not necessarily there as part of the rotation. And same thing like on adventures. I know we were talking with Byron, and one of the concerns that we had was like the scrapyard or the scrap pit. Like if you have a lot of people down there, the tendrils are just flinging things all over the place and becomes a really huge challenge. So we made a conscious decision about a couple of them just not having those show up in the rotation. All of them got boosted for EXP and various rewards and things like that. We also went back and increased the timer for a lot of them as well. So if you hadn't had a chance to check out Adventures in the new version, please go back. They're a lot. I mean, they're still amazing fun. Well, they've always been fun. It's just now it's a little bit more forgiving, so like you don't have to feel like, cool, I missed it by a second. That really sucks. We really wanted the people who are really competing to be shooting for the leaderboard placement and not necessarily shooting for, oh, I just barely was able to get gold. Like, that doesn't feel necessarily as fun.
I mean, it felt really good to beat Shooting Gallery on live, but it's there's a point in time where it's like I hit 37 or 38 seconds so many times in a row. And I think one of the other things that we ended up doing was allowing the adventures to be open more often.
Right.
Because there's a certain like ramp up, right? So like if I can get to 38 seconds, 5 times in a row, I know that there's only a little bit more I need to do, but then of course the adventure would turn off because nighttime would hit or the events would come through. So we did a little bit for opening those things up more often, which I think is going to help a lot as well.
Yep.
Yeah. I do like that it's you and the Quaggan hanging out. I'm sorry, I couldn't help it. I looked over and it was just the two of you hanging out there, and I was thinking we should have given him a name.
No, because then you legitimize it, right? If you give it a name, like a proper name, then people care.
Just to be clear,
It's
Byron
not,
has a problem with Quaggins.
Yes, it's not the backpack. Byron just doesn't love Quaggins.
Useless. That's all it is.
They're
Useless.
adorable.
No, we have Scrit. We don't need Quaggin.
Would it make you feel better to talk about the training arena?
Yeah, it would actually.
Okay.
You know what? That reminds me. I should have made those. Golems Quaggin that you beat up in there. That would have been real good.
No.
It's
The cat
too
golems
late.
are
You
fine.
can't do it now.
Hold on. It's a live game.
You stop. Quit helping
Do
him.
anything. All right.
We don't let you have any fun. Okay, so the training arena, we introduced raiding with a Heart of Thorns, and it's not it's a harder, different kind of content that doesn't necessarily let you bring your own build.
Yeah.
But we don't want to just shut out an enormous part of our player base. We do want new people to come in.
Yeah, well, we're asking players to engage in a part of our content. I think that in the past we have not asked them to engage as heavily, or also, the people who are really into that kind of thing, we didn't really provide them with a lot of tools to set up scenarios like that. We had the PvP golems, but we still relied on players looking at their combat logs and trying to scrutinize those types of things without really providing a good source of feedback for that thing. And so with the latest release, we actually had the opportunity in this case to add those tools in a way that made sense. And someone off screen is totally just rolling themselves like crazy, and it's really super. It's great.
I can't stop looking.
I mean, they gotta look their best for the live stream. So, I mean, right? So yeah, I mean, we ended up putting this thing in at this point because it sort of makes sense. We've got a content type now that really expects a lot more from the PvE aspect of our game, and expects a deeper dive into the rotations and the mechanics and our profession system. So
Rather than just talking about it, how about you show us?
okay, cool. Well, let's
that'd
do
be
that.
amazing.
We have my character here.
Yeah, you have to stand there, huh?
I do. I did have to stand right here. Hi guys. This is Grillick. Grillick's the greatest. He's got a cool super glider. So if in case you guys haven't figured out where this place is yet, I don't know, maybe you live under a rock or something. This is the Lion's Arch Aerodrome. It's been updated to include a raid portal as a big signifier, so now you know. Also, you can take a look at your map. It is in Fort Mariner. Hello, Lion's Arch. Hello, Lobster. We'll talk about you in a bit. Raid lobby is here, and so you guys can walk into this little portal, and whoop, cool load screen. Thank you, Sveta. And the Aerodrome raid lobby is really just a place where players can gather, look at each other's cool gear that they get from the raids. I got a sloth hammer this week. I got the little
Did
mushroom
you really?
gun. Yeah, it was good.
So many people are jealous of you right now.
Yeah, and so it's a place for the consortium to sort of repair their ships that are kind of going out here in Lion's Arch and going off to the new shipping lanes all over Tyria. And the training area is over here to the east. And so to get in there, you need to be in a squad. And fortunately, all players have the ability to make their own squad. I have a commander tag, and since my character is blue, I'm going to fashion tag up.
But you don't need a commander
What if
tag
you
for this,
don't
right?
No,
have a
you
commander
don't. In
tag,
fact,
yeah.
you can just go in as, but make sure you switch it over to the raid squad here, squad type raid. And I don't want randos joining my group here because I'm cool and super unique. So we're gonna go in,
Okay.
and we're gonna do a little bit of manipulation. We're gonna make some kitty golems that can feel all sorts of feelings, and then we're going to make them feel those feelings with fire and ice.
Are they happy feelings?
I mean, I have
You can say just
the
no, it's
question
fine.
goes right back at you. If you were lit on fire by a tiny megalomaniac Asura, would you feel happy feelings?
Yeah,
Oh,
if I was
okay.
programmed that way as being a golem, maybe.
No, these golems feel a full range of human emotions.
Please, sir, may I have some more?
All right, so we can do all sorts. So here's the thing that actually is a little bit hidden away. If you have a commander tag, you get a couple of more options because you are special, and you can adjust the stats and the boons on your team rather than just yourself, and you can adjust the environment. You can toggle on pulsing damage in the area. I'm going to not do that though. Well,
Except you did.
I did, and now I'm going to turn it off. So let's spawn a
Liar.
golem in. Let's say, let's make it a weak one because I'm a weak player. And let's give it,
If
I
it
don't know.
matters, you're not weak to me.
Aw, thanks, Mike. Right here, it feels good. I'm going to add some vulnerability because vulnerability is sweet. I'm going to add 16 stacks of vulnerability, and then I'm going to go fight this guy. So what's really cool about this is every 20% health, oh man, you guys are going to really be upset about my rotation, and I apologize for nothing. So every 20% health, the boss will spit out in your combat log, which you obviously can't see because it's hidden by the thing.
By your face.
Is it hidden by my face? Oh my God, it is. Well, okay, I guess it's a good payoff, trade-off.
I like when he makes a discovery. He gets so happy.
And then every 20% it spits out how much damage you've done, how long you've been in combat with the boss, and then the calculation of your damage per second. There are a lot of options. See, I'm doing 5,900, which I know is respectable in the hardcore rating community. As a staff Ellie, I'm sure someone somewhere just having an aneurysm. But you can do a lot of stuff in here, and really it provides a lot of. I mean, like I can adjust myself, and I can say I want to add all the boons in the world and all of the profession-specific combat enhancements. Be aware that that's not necessarily a reasonable. It's very reasonable. It's not reflective of a true rating environment to have all the buffs at once and do all the damage in the world. Probably still won't hit above 6K, but. So yeah, it's a cool place to practice, right? It's a place to learn more about your class and about the interactions you have with your profession and the interactions you have with other professions. So.
All right, so if you're an old hand at this and you still want to get better,
Yeah.
it's handy. If you're new at this and would like to not learn on stage in front of everybody,
Yeah, I think that's a big part of this, right? Like, rating is sort of has seen a little bit of trouble where people want to get into it, but they're a little bit intimidated by the fact that like all of the stakes are high and on the table right when you start, right? Like you go and you fight Veil Guardian, it's like it's either succeed or fail. It's either get the loot or don't get the loot. It's either
Right.
kill the boss or don't kill the boss. And I think in a lot of situations, if that's the only medium in which you have to learn about the things you need to learn about, then you can actually be in a tight spot, right? You can feel like that's maybe too much. And this is an ability to sort of ramp that up, to get comfortable like hitting the buttons at the right times, so that when it comes to stacking and distributed magic and not blowing up your raid, that you can actually do that. So I think that's the biggest benefit of this is also in the chat log, the damage per second step. That's only reported to you, right? You don't have to share that information with anybody. You can just use it as hey, I'm going to change this trait around, and my damage per second goes up by 4,000. Wow, that's probably a good decision to make, right?
yeah, I should probably keep doing that.
Changing your traits and making your damage go up by 4,000. Man, I wish I could just do that.
Maybe.
Talk to Carl. He's over there.
Carl, I've got a
God.
request for you later. So.
Carl's leaving the room now.
Carl
Carl's leaving
quits.
the building. He's going to take his lint roller and go.
Yeah, he's lint free now. That's all he came for. Yeah, so
if they have, if somebody's going to have the choice between having this as an available tool and saying, you know what, the barrier to entry is too high, I'm not going to raid, and we can give them this thing, great.
yeah. I think another thing that this is sort of, and we've seen a lot of sort of, there were some questions that were asked during the Reddit thing a couple days ago that were like, why now, right? Why provide us this tool now? And was there a design philosophy shift? And I don't think that that's the case. I said in my answer, it was like it's more of a moment of opportunity, right? Like we're providing a space that is for raids, and we have an opportunity to add something for raids that also benefits the rest of the game, right? Like even dungeon running, right? As an example, like there are people who want to get better at doing 1 trillion damage in like a fraction of a second to speed run through those things.
Especially now that Ara's back on the table, people are going for those loopy kills.
Yeah, you
Right,
got to go
look.
quick. So I think that it provides a tool not necessarily only for raids. Utilized primarily by, but other people are going to come in here and use this as a way of getting better, getting good, if you will.
You can.
Yeah, and I think the other thing that was and this sort of helps address. I think there's a general understand or a general attitude that like raids are this exclusive thing because they like I want to play the way I want to play and I want to because it's fun and it's what makes me happy. And I think we have a large portion of our game that provides that opportunity for you.
We have most of the game.
Yeah, most of the game
that
in
provides,
fact.
yeah.
And I think really like my approach to that is raiding is about being in a, on a team and right and like and this applies to all walks of life. When you join a team, when you put yourself in that situation, the success of the team really has to become for in order to be the success of the team has to become paramount, right? And I think that being able to compromise and to make the adjustments to sort of make the team as a whole successful and everybody sort of to enjoy the collective shared experience of succeeding and of earning the loot and like successfully executing the mechanics, like being able to sublimate part of your ego to like say, hey, I'm gonna make this. I mean, like I play an Oromancer Tempest sometimes because my group dies too much and they take too much damage in Slothosaur. Like, I don't necessarily want to do that, but it is something that's going to make my raid in the long run successful. And like when we can get to a point where they don't need me to do that, I can swap back over to my my Staff Ellie or my Auto Attack Thief or like whatever, right? I can switch back to that and play the things that I enjoy when we've all sort of collectively gotten to that level. But I think it's just important to understand that and to use the tools necessary to sort of be able to bring yourself up and to make your team stronger.
So what I'm hearing, Raid Leader Byron, is I can switch back to my Thief at some point.
No, you're still our Mesmer, and you will not ever be something other than that.
There's like one little tear right here. But I think stepping out of your comfort zone, that makes you a better player too.
Yeah, I think it does make you more well-rounded and more versatile, and as one of our raid members, Joe, says, to be more dynamic. Being dynamic is very important.
Yes.
You got to think on the fly.
The way you look, it makes me feel like he's very serious when he says that.
Oh, he is. He is.
I need to ask him about this.
I hear be dynamic quite a bit when we're wiping every.
Is it super
pull.
loud?
No.
Like a little angry?
No.
Okay.
Joe's level, very level.
Darn.
So the last little bit, I think, I got some questions about this too, which was surprising.
Yeah.
Maybe so, maybe not. Is there's this friend over here, the tour
this
guide.
is our tour guide.
Yeah,
she's
just so
okay.
sad. Look at her.
So she's just like endlessly gonna mourn her design now.
Well, so it's not really her design, right? Like, so the story here is, and I think I've said this a couple times before, but
And
she
you have
was,
to make it a short story
all right,
because there's like
short
6 more
story.
people.
Oh my gosh. Long story short, she was hired to take place in a competition to redesign Lion's Arch, and she wasn't picked, and she's very sad because now she's a constant reminder of her failure as an architect because there's a giant concrete lobster in Lion's Arch. We out!
I will let you guys go through and introduce yourselves.
Okay, I'm McKenna Berdrow. I'm a game designer.
I'm Ben Arnold. I'm a content programmer.
All right. And McKenna, what was your role in the update? We have a while, so.
Yeah. I worked on the Fractal back piece and the Scribing rebalance. Then I also helped out with the World versus World rewards and stuff for this time around.
Oh, is that all?
Yeah, that's
No
it.
big deal.
Yeah, just those 3 things.
This is the main thing. So I worked on the Cliffside overhaul for Fractals, and then a bunch of bug fixes for Fractals, and also the changes to Lifesteal for the skills, standardizing those.
Awesome. All right, I want to go through Scribing first because that was like an enormous ongoing project for you.
Yeah.
So first of all, thank you. I know I've thanked you like 85 times, and I'm just going to keep doing it. Every time I go in there and level my scribe a little bit, I'm going to tell you thank you. So you simplified some of the recipes, made them hurt so much less.
Yep.
You killed the potato market.
Yep. Yeah. You can't. The potatoes aren't as profitable anymore.
The potato market has gone down.
Yeah. So basically, what I went through and looked at was there was the obvious first thing was that there's a lot of those recipes that build off of each other, like the brown pigment, right? You had to use brown pigment forever, and so brown pigment was super expensive. And this was originally done so that the lower tier stuff would stay profitable or whatever compared to our other crafting, where it's kind of forgotten. Yeah, so it succeeded, but it ended up being way more expensive than we ever wanted it to be. So that was the clear first thing I went through and changed, right? It's just, okay, get rid of these, all the building off of each other recipes.
Right.
After that, I made a really awesome spreadsheet, and it showed, I look at the different like materials needed or whatever, and some of them were outliers, like they were crazy expensive, and I'd be like, okay, why is this crazy expensive? And usually it was a combination of things, drop rates being part of it. So I went through and like changed drop rates on things, made like slivers. Now you can just get them everywhere, right? Like they were super expensive, but now they're not because again, now you can get them in lots of places. So yeah, it was just kind of going through and looking at the edge cases.
Yeah, and I don't even remember where I got slivers somewhere last night, and it's like at my house, and it's 10 o'clock at night. And I was like, we get it!
Yeah, you get them from all dailies now.
Yeah.
And then you can get them from the farming nodes from the Guild Hall and World versus World.
So the thing was, I mean, there were a couple of elements, like you were talking about, like with the brown pigment.
Yeah.
And like these scribing kits, where it was a really easy, obvious, okay, let's just cut out this element and make it simple. But this was, I mean, you and I have been talking about this for months.
Yeah.
And it wasn't just an issue of, okay, reduce everything by X amount. I mean, you really had to go in there and figure out how every single little element was going to work.
Yeah, there was a lot of like, there's just a lot of,
Yeah.
the sliver things, like I reduced, so you used to take like 3 slivers to craft the next tier of slivers, right? Instead I was just like, all right, like let's just make these slivers instead. Like I said, making a spreadsheet of all those things super helps, right? Because you can see, like I had to actually calculate the price in real time, so it was like, all right, this is super expensive. Why is it? You can look at the material costs. And so, yeah, I think it was just looking at the prices overall, and having a goal of what you wanted them to be. So.
Right. How long have you been focused? How long is this project been going on?
It was a
Do you remember?
couple. Yeah, it was. I think it started in January,
Okay.
and then it took a couple months. There was a lot of feedback from players, or I looked at feedback from players. Like they were super helpful because there's a lot of pain points for them, right? And it's like, okay, what are all their pain points? Make sure I get those checked off, and then playtesting feedback as well. Like they would go through and play and be like, hey, like this still seems a little high. So that helped me go through everything as well.
I tended to pay more attention to this one just because personally as a player it was interesting to me. And I really appreciate, this was something that I forgot to say to you yesterday, I just appreciated watching, and I know we do this all over the place, but it was something that I really got to see ongoing with you, that there was a lot of back and forth. Okay, we are fixing this for the players is the end goal, so let's make sure we're hearing them.
Yeah.
Make sure we figure out what's really going on here and how it's going to work.
Like the assembly device is a good example of that, right? Like, it just took a long time to make something. And originally, Scribing was made so that we wanted it to be more of a guild effort. And in some cases, it still was a guild effort. Like, I think you brought up that a lot of your guild mates, like, actually contributed to you. But not all guilds were that case, right? Like, a lot of scribes just had to go and make the decorations by themselves because they're like, I want to decorate. And it was really, really expensive for those people. So a huge mindset change or whatever for Scribing was just to make it so that one player could do it if they wanted to.
Right.
And so assembly times, for one person to craft something and then for them to have to wait hours doesn't feel great for them, right? And so and part of it was all the festival things went out and they were super fast and everyone's like, we love this. Why are all of them fast? So it's like, why not? Why aren't all of them fast? Yeah. And it stayed, the only reason we kept it too, besides some technical issues of deleting it and if you had stuff in queue, was so that...
That would have been terrible.
Yeah, that could have brought up other issues, but the other reason we kept it is so that it kind of serves as a bank before like flooding your guild storage, right? You can sort of store things in the assembly device for now as well, so...
That was something too that if your guild has more than one scribe, beforehand it was another big pain point. I mean, there's another guy in my guild who scribes, and I'm sure he ran into it. I'm really sorry if you ever did. I'm sure he ran into it too. I'd go over there and I'd be like ready to make this thing. Yeah. Oh man. Okay, so it looks like he logged off a couple hours ago and this thing has 8 hours left. Now I cannot do the gameplay that I want to do because I was too slow. Yeah, exactly. I think the assembly device created a lot of issues, for the people who had multiple scribes in their guild. So that was months of work. Yeah, it was. It was a lot of just random, because people would keep coming to me like, I hate this thing or this thing. Why is this thing this way? And I'd be like, why is it that way? Thank you for your feedback. Yeah. One of the cool things too that like I was happy with was the Globe of Whispers, and I've seen people bring it up on Reddit and stuff now. I've seen people talking about that.
Yeah, and so that was initially addressed because players were like, hey, this takes the thing you get from World Complete, like one of the stuff that's used in Legendaries, And instead they're like, and it gives us like a desk glove. It's pretty small. And so I was like, yes, I can understand why that feels weird. And so you use that smaller globe to make the Globe of Whispers, which I'm pretty sure is the biggest decoration we've created yet. It's massive.
Yeah,
Like,
I
so.
hadn't seen it until I actually saw it this morning. I saw a picture on Reddit. I was like, whoa, I need that.
It's pretty crazy. Some of the people internally actually like place it inside of their guild portal, and then when you turn on the guild portal, it's like the perfect size that the like teleportation thing wraps around it. So it actually looks really cool too.
So many people are going to do that,
Yeah.
I hope.
Yeah.
I'm one of them.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome.
So how do you feel about the end result? Now that we've had a couple days for things to settle, do you feel like everybody's happy with it?
Yeah, I think
Okay, not
there's
everybody,
a lot
but-
of other parts in the game that are like I hear more feedback on than Scribing currently, but I think overall like it's a lot cheaper. You can see it kind of reflecting in the market, and so I think it's a lot better for everyone.
You
and
guys should
I'm
check out
happy with
Scribing. It doesn't hurt as much.
Yeah.
It doesn't hurt now.
Yeah, you can decorate stuff again. So yeah.
Awesome. Thank you. So, all right. So Dungeons and Fractals. I mean, Mike made like the understatement of the year. We gave a little love to the dungeon community.
A little love. So I didn't specifically work on Dungeons, but I've definitely been playing Dungeons a lot since the update, and it just feels so much better with all the rewards. And it's we really needed it. There just wasn't an incentive to run Dungeons like there was before. And the same thing for Fractals. Like the main problem we had with Fractals was that everybody wanted to just run Swamp. It was called basically Swamp of the Mist is what the community started to call Fractals, simply because you had to do 9 fractals for your dailies, but we didn't really tell you which fractals you had to do other than 2 recommended dailies, so people would just do Swamp and Molten Dew over and over again. And that's just not fun. You don't want to have to do that every day to just get your dailies, and then finding a group for anything else was really tough. So the best course of action for us to actually solve that problem was to give people an incentive to do other fractals, like giving them better daily achievements. Sean actually came up with the daily achievement system we have now, the tiered system, so that when you complete a fractal, say at tier 4, you get all of the rewards for the tiers below it. So instead of having to do 9 fractals for your dailies, you should only have to do about 5. And of course, the rewards are better now. They actually give you things that are useful inside fractals, like offensive potions and materials to craft ascended gear and things like that. Just really across the board, we needed to solve fractals, and that was one of the biggest changes really that we made that solved that.
Yeah. Full disclosure, Sean is out sick, so
Unfortunately,
that's
yes.
pinch hitting.
So he wasn't here to talk
Yeah.
about rewards.
Yeah, so you get to help us with
Yes.
that. Sorry.
Of course. In addition to the achievements, we also changed some of the mislock instabilities because a lot of issues with difficulty scaling in fractals were present, and mislock instabilities were one of them. For instance, we have an instability that applies random conditions, and some of the random conditions would be fear. And if you get feared off the edge in fractals that have ledges, it's just really obnoxious. So we got rid of that, made it damaging conditions. We just did a bunch of changes to all the instabilities across the board to make it feel better when you're actually doing it. Of course, we also changed Cliffside. The scaling in fractals isn't really what we want right now. Whenever you get to higher scales, you end up just having to do more damage and just take longer, and the mechanics themselves don't really change much at all. And in addition to that, the pacing in some of the fractals is really bad, as it was in Cliffside. So before the update, whenever Cliffside came up in the rotation, people would usually kind of dread it, just because it was the longest fractal, and it was just really slow, because you'd be running through hallways with traps and things that just weren't really that fun, and you'd have to fight the Arc Diviner twice. So a change we made was to improve the pacing, make all the paths shorter, and just make you progress to the fun events more quickly, and then fix some of the issues with the fun events, like the chest seal, fix the stack spot, and make that a more dynamic event. And then for the boss, we actually added proper mechanical scaling. Instead of just having his health get bigger and have him do more damage, he gains new attacks, and the attacks get faster, the window to break his bar gets smaller, and that's the kind of difficulty progression we envision in fractals, and that's what we want to use going forward. So we're going to be looking at reworking some of the other fractals, and we're going to be using this kind of difficulty progression in new fractals, and it seems like the players are really happy with this difficulty progression. It's really been what they've been asking for a while, so I think they'll like the future changes we have coming too.
Yeah, there's some more stuff coming.
Yeah, there's stuff coming. It's gonna be good stuff.
That's the thing I keep saying. We're not just like going to go home and not come back. We're okay. We're done.
Yep.
Bye.
We fixed Cliffside. Fractals are done.
Oh gosh. Okay, that was a joke. Please don't quote
No.
him. And be like,
Don't quote me.
well, Ben Arnold said.
Oh god, it's gonna go right up on Reddit. I know it.
Oh boy. So I'm like, wait, and now there's like 9 joke threads being made about this.
Probably.
So, what was your guys' favorite content to work on in all of this?
I'll let you go first.
Wow, that was mean.
I'm being a gentleman.
How's that? You're throwing her under a bus, dude. See how I stalled to give you more time?
Yeah. So actually, this is not Fractal or Scribing.
That's okay,
related,
because
but
you're going to stick around for
it's
the next
true.
segment, too.
I helped design the Provision Master for World versus World. So like, I really enjoyed that. I can talk about it more next if we want, or we can talk about it now. But watching the artists, like I went through and named all the foods as like canned or whatever on that, and
really?
yeah,
Nice.
because they're all the World versus food became canned because it's World versus World and it's the army, and
Tyler just started like
exciting.
very excitedly whispering, so we'll let you talk more about it when he's on here.
yeah, it's true. So, but yeah, that was probably my
Nice.
favorite thing.
All right, now you have to answer.
Yeah. No, for me, it was designing the boss, the Arc Diviner, going in and changing his attacks, trying to figure out attacks that would require more mobility. Like, one of my favorite attacks of his right now is his Teleport Smash, where he charges at the furthest player, smacks him with the hammer, and if you don't dodge it, he'll probably chain hit another attack, and you're just dead. And it's really fun, because it actually gives people who are traditionally just sitting far away in range combat and just, like, doing their auto attack on him, waiting for him to die.
Surprise!
They have to actually pay a lot of attention, or they're just going to get wrecked by him. And just designing stuff like that, figuring out how to do the actual difficulty progression, what mechanics should be added, how the break bar window should change, and just how everything should scale, to me was really fun, and I'm excited to do more of it.
How did you come to the decision of, okay, this is what we're going to do with him?
Well, it wasn't just like my decision. There was
Yeah,
a lot of
this
feedback
is-
from the team, and we would kind of just iterate on it. We'd come up with, let's give him some kind of really big AoE attack, which is like the cone AoE attack, something that players need to dodge because it does a lot of damage. And then we just we tack on more things, like we need something that pressures ranged players, so the Teleport Smash. We need to fix issues with his point, so make it an AoE, make it something dodgeable, make it so that it can cage multiple people. And we just iterate on that, just keep getting feedback from the rest of the team and figuring out, what the balance should kind of be. And really, to be honest, I don't think the balance for the Arc Diviner is quite where it needs to be yet, just from what I've been seeing from what people have been saying on live. So it's definitely something we can continue to iterate on.
Here's always my favorite question. Can you tell something that got left in the iteration trail that didn't make it in,
Yes.
that you wanted to do with him?
Well, there's I guess 2 things. One is we want to kind of change the way the agony system works. The agony, or not the agony, sorry, the infusion system works, and we weren't able to get that in time just because there were some technical problems. Like it would delete all of your agony infusions if we made the change we wanted to make. So yeah, we didn't get to that. And also
Please
some of the
don't do that.
pacing in some of the other fractals that are still bad. Molten Furnace is one that's definitely got a lot of stuff in it where you're just kind of sitting waiting for the drill to move forward, or you're waiting for dialogue, and that's not really what we want for fractals. We want fractals to be something where you jump in, you're doing stuff, and then you're done. It's really quick.
But that's the part where I go refill my drink.
Yeah, I mean, you can do that. That's good.
Yeah. For the
Awesome.
Fractal backpack, we actually used to have to fight Triple Trouble.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that got iterated out because we were
What?
like,
Thank you so much.
Yeah, we were like, ooh,
I didn't know that
that's
until
really
just
hard.
now.
Yeah, so like
Wow.
we changed that to actually be the Twilight Arbor instead, and you kill the worm in that.
All right.
Yeah, so like those kinds
Huh.
of things get changed.
100 times easier.
Yeah, we were like, yeah, that wasn't.
Well,
Yeah,
so that's a thing. That,
yeah.
Okay.
Fractal backpack's been handed off to a lot of people, so it's been.
Who did that?
I'm actually unsure, but it's
Okay.
yeah, it's one of those like it was still there when we first had when we first completed or finished up collection 4, and then as
Okay.
the team we were like, yeah, that's really hard. Yeah, we should.
I'm sorry, that was like super mean.
Yeah,
But yeah, that's not a thing I would want to do.
yeah. But like just another example of the
Yeah,
iteration
totally.
kind of stuff we go through.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Wow, thank you was that you guys that fixed that? Thank you.
Yeah.
I've seen people running around with the Fractal backpack too, and
Yeah.
I'm so happy that Kelve is finally getting their
Yeah.
Finally getting
it's
to do
exciting,
something besides stand there like I'm so lonely.
No one matches me.
All right. Thank you guys very, very much.
It was a pleasure.
You stick around.
I,
We'll let you get back to work.
Bye,
And
everyone.
we'll be back in a few minutes. All right, we're back. We found more people, you guys. McKenna, I'm not going to make you introduce yourself again because that would
Yay.
be super weird. But Tyler.
Hey, I'm Tyler Bearce, game designer on the World vs. World team.
And I'm Karl McLain. I'm working on the skills and balance team.
You look really nice and lint-free. I can't help but notice that.
You know,
Carl's
I,
like,
I came in
"Dear
here
God,
and
I'm
I'm
so
like,
glad I did
oh
that."
no, there's like all sorts of like hair and yeah.
So they're in here for a reason. So it's
Yes,
not just you.
It's good. Work.
All right. So Tyler, I'll let you start and tell us your role within the April 19th update.
So pretty much every World vs. World bullet point
Yay.
I had a hand in, or the rest of my team also.
Oh, so it wasn't just like you single-handed?
No, I
mean,
no.
you're pretty great,
I'm,
but-
I'm glad I have people to help me. Otherwise,
Yeah, but you're
it'd take
human.
much longer.
All right, Carl.
Doing these skills and the balance updates, and we worked on the effect LOD systems, and doing a lot of stuff in that area.
So
We can
much
talk
stuff.
about that in a bit.
Awesome. All right.
But
I'm going to let you guys run with the World versus World because we already start with the canned foods.
yeah. Provision Master, Auto
Yeah.
Loot, and World vs. World.
This
Yay.
has been like an enormous undertaking. I mean, I'm scared to ask how long you guys have been working on all of this stuff. And
Provision Master was
not just Provision Master,
okay.
all the bullet points.
That was
Because this
probably mostly done in the last 3 months or
Yeah.
so.
Because this is just like the start. You guys aren't done.
Yeah, we do plan to
There's-
continue updating World vs. World.
There's more coming.
Yay.
How good did that feel?
Yeah, great.
It felt so good. All right, so what was the goal in this first, just to get out what you could in this first round?
Yeah, I mean, so there's a number of historical core problems with World vs. World that we want to address.
I have heard.
One of that was players weren't feeling rewarded enough. A lot of players asked for PvP reward tracks to be added to World vs. World, so we made that happen.
Yeah.
There's been issues where population imbalances, where some worlds just have very few players and they don't really even get to participate in the same type of World vs. World play that even medium or higher tier servers get to participate in. So world linking was an attempt to greatly improve that experience. And just we didn't need as many tiers anymore.
Is that TIERS or TEAR?
Both.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm looking at the clock. It's 12:45 now. Reset in EU has happened?
Yeah, that happened an hour and a half ago.
Have you been able to check while you were waiting?
Yeah,
And-
no, I was actually playing for like 10 minutes
Okay.
on Vabolation or Desob or whatever the new world is called.
This is a question I would ask you, so I'm no help.
Desolation Plus.
How'd it go?
It was good.
Yeah.
Players seemed excited.
Nothing exploded?
Yeah.
Nothing imploded?
I mean, I haven't gotten to see all of the reaction in the last
Yeah.
hour or so since I've been in here, but
But nothing melted?
fingers crossed. Yeah, seems to be working.
Awesome. All right, so what's been, since I've asked everybody else, everything's had a chance to settle, what's been your favorite part of watching the World versus World players come in and enjoy the updates?
I think the reward tracks and participation system has been really good. I've
That's
heard
the thing
more-
that's bringing me
yeah.
back in.
A lot of people are like staying on, playing for an extra half hour, an hour, because they just want a few more rewards. They're that close to finishing to get the big reward that they want.
Mhm.
So that's been great.
Nice. Carl, what
Well-
about... Go ahead.
I feel like a quaggin right now.
You're definitely not a quaggin.
No comment.
That poor quaggin. Byron was just so sad about having to sit by a quaggin. I love him.
What's the
been... All right, so you were working on the updates as far as skill balance related to World versus World and the LOD.
Yeah.
Just watching that settle over the past few days.
It's been interesting. It's been a lot of fun. So one of the things is the effect LOD system, and that one took quite a while to kind of develop and
Yeah.
iterate on. We've got a give a huge shout out to our artists who, would take the effects and be like, how are we going to make this so it's the same thing, looks the same, feels the same, but it has less visual impact for everybody else. We went through several iterations of this, and we went through from like very basic projectiles where it's like, here's a red line, and then we were like, this doesn't really feel right at all, and so we came back and we ended up doing a large swath of like, take this effect, reduce it just a little bit, take out some particle effects, and sort of clean up a lot of the visual effects, so that when you're attacking a gigantic boss and there's 50 people, the thing isn't completely covered and you can't see its animations anymore.
Right.
Yeah. So, that was a large undertaking that happened there. The other thing, we went through and did a lot of specific world versus world balance changes.
Yep.
And those were, a lot of the changes we felt like we could make without actually impacting the rest of the game. This comes into the area where things like static field, unsteady ground, ring of warding, hunter's ward, that kind of stuff. We made it so they have a maximum hit count of 10, which is, you don't really hit 10 targets in PvP often.
Not so much.
And in PvE, it's much less impactful as well. But this specifically touches on World vs. World, and it went along quite well with the stability changes, where we had previously a very small cooldown, so you didn't get multiple stacks of stability stripped at once. And so we took that cooldown and we played a lot with it at different levels. We had it at like a second, we had it at 2 seconds, we had it at half a second, a quarter second, and we played around with the timing on that for how frequently it can be stripped off of you from crowd control. So we ended up at 0.75 seconds, and it felt good, and we felt like this was what we wanted to ship out and see how World vs. World felt with it.
Yep.
And there were a few other changes like that we wanted to make so that stability couldn't be rapidly stripped off of you. Things to like slick shoes, which can now only hit a target once instead of like running over the guy repeatedly and getting all of your stability stacks stripped off immediately.
It sounds fun to me.
Yeah, it's totally fun.
All right, so you talked a little bit about Desert Borderlands with me. How's that feeling after a couple days?
I think the changes have been really well received. We were a little nervous going in based on our initial reaction to the Desert Borderlands map, but myself and Jesse, the map artist, we spent a couple of weeks just looking at pain points on the map and trying to change high impact, low risk type of things, where we'd open up a new path or raise the ground, things like that. But we avoided like major changes, like moving an objective, 900 meters to the south or something. Units, I don't know actually feet what we use in our game. 900.
I want to give you an assignment now to go find out exactly.
Yeah, I already know. Nobody actually knows what it is intentionally.
So you could just make something up, and nobody would argue with you.
Tyrian unit of measure.
It's
Knots
like
or
900
those? No.
Tyrias. We'll just use that word for whatever. All right, so what's coming? How much can you tell us about what's coming up for World vs. World? I want spoilers. Give me spoilers.
Okay, well, so
But not too many where I get in trouble after this.
the team has a couple projects in mind as things we want to work on next. And what we're planning on doing is we're working on creating a public poll that we're going to put up on the website and have players actually vote on which of those two things they'd like to see us work on next. Because now the team sort of shifted our direction a little bit, and we just want to focus on being stewards of the game mode rather than directing it, and just players get to see whatever we work on. We want players to be more involved in protecting the game mode that they love to play.
Can you
Yeah.
talk a little bit about? I was like, can you say what you're working on?
I've been working on fixing up Alpine, so Alpine will be back for sure. It's getting there. We're testing it still to make sure it doesn't come back and it's broken. So, but it's almost there. So, yeah.
Awesome.
Yep.
All right. Anything else you guys want to leave us with?
No.
Give us more. Give us more. All right. We have one more piece, so we will be right back. I have. Why?
I mean, it was. I felt like, you know what? Everybody got a bunch of people to come up here, and it's me solo. I wanted something. He was sitting on the chair, and he's up here with me.
You have a quaggin.
Oh man, I got my quaggin too. Man, he got some headphones. Man, I feel like I'm at home. Yeah, let me get that too.
Okay, you're all
Let me
good.
Get this like up here. I don't know.
We have Hugh and a pile of toys.
It's pretty much the way I work at my desk. I just got a bunch of crap on it, and I'm like a keyboard. All right, that's all I need.
It's
really.
about right. All
That's about
right.
it.
So PvP, you did things. Tell us about it.
I did.
Here, give me the cloud. I want something to play with.
What? You want
Give
the-
it.
Oh.
Tell me about PvP.
All right. So, PvP.
Stop that immediately. That's horrifying. What is wrong with you?
So PvP. One of the things we wanted to focus on when we. Yeah, I love that. I'm gonna get that back. No, I'm just kidding. All right. So. One of the big things when we did in PvP is we decided we're like, okay, what can we do for the April release? Because we saw, the motive of the release was, improve the game, make stuff a little better, go back to maybe some old stuff that had some pain points and see what we can do, right? Mm-hmm. Well, like, what can we do that will have a really big impact on the community? Things that people have been asking for, and just kind of go with
Like
that.
a good one, not like,
Yeah, like
what
what-
can we do that's awful?
Yeah. That's the first thing I always ask the team. I'm like, what can we do that's gonna make everybody upset? Nothing. All right. Well, okay.
We don't actually do that.
No. So one of the things we saw was.
This is why I saved you for last.
Because they're gonna throw me out in the middle of this. But we saw like a lot of feedback we got was like there's certain maps specifically we saw that like Spirit Watch, a lot of the community was like, hey, you know what, this map's pretty close to being a competitive map. Mm-hmm. And because we have ranked arena right now and we have seasons and stuff like that, we have a very select maps that we feel can go into competitive.
Right.
Go into the competitive rotation. So but yet we have these maps that exist, they're just not competitive. The community says they're not competitive, and for good reason, right? Mm-hmm. There was definitely some pain points that were on the map that we hadn't addressed.
For example,
like Spirit Watch, the orb mechanic was essentially contesting the conquest mechanic. It was like having two main mechanics on a map.
Okay.
Right? It was like, hey, go play Capture the Flag. Also, guess what?
Here's this orb.
Capture the Flag was the orb, right? And then it was like, oh, and then also go play Conquest. And so you had people that were like, I will play Capture the Flag. And then the other people going, I will play Conquest. And then you didn't know which was the right call unless you were on a team or you knew what to do. Because if you knew what to do, the orb you could play it and make it a secondary, right? But that wasn't the case for some matches, especially pug matches or matches when you were solo. Some people would be playing Capture Flag, some people are running around, some people are doing whatever, right? So we're like, how can we do this? How can we make
there's
this?
a lot of just scattering. and
Yes,
this is not
exactly.
helping the situation.
Exactly. And so that's why the community felt it wasn't competitive. And again, good reason. I think it's a good reason. So what we decided to do is later on, can we bring it down? Can we tone back the secondary and actually make it a secondary? Make it feel like a secondary, but still make it impactful, right? So that's why we took the orb and we slowed it down. It doesn't spawn right away, and when you cap it, it doesn't respawn right away. Because right now, before the patch, it was like, the orb spawns in 10 seconds. So as soon as you leave your base, you just run to the middle, orb spawns, you capture it, you run it, right? And then it respawns 10 seconds later, and you run it, you capture it, and you run it.
And you're being screamed at about the orb. Yeah.
Yes. And the other thing that happened was it also was kind of unfair for certain classes. Like certain classes could be super fast with super speed, or they could use 3 jump skills, or they could put invulnerabilities up, or a bunch of block skills up forever, right? So we decided to also make that consistent. You know what? Let's give it a transform. Let's make sure that you can't use any skills, and you rely on your team, right, to actually run the orb. Now, of course, the problem was I missed something, and thank you, forums, for letting me know, so I'll be trying to fix that. But that was a mistake on my part. I didn't make it so certain traits weren't ignored, so there is some things that you can do right now, but that is a bug that will be fixed. Yes, like A good example of this would be the dodge trait on Daredevil. You still have 3 dodges, right? Which is, again, it's inconsistent, and you can do like dodge, do damage and stuff like that. So we're taking rid of that. It's going to go back to being very consistent. Everybody's going to be on the same level, right? But that was good feedback, right? I missed that, so I'm going to fix that. But the other thing we did is, because of lowering the number, right? Also making it harder to run, we increased the point values.
Okay.
Made it 25 points for capturing it on a enemy point or a neutral point, and 50 points capturing on your own point, right? Now, here's the other thing I want to point out. Spirit Watch is in beta right now. This is beta Spirit Watch. So one thing I want to make sure everybody does, especially for Spirit Watch and Skyhammer, and I'll get to Skyhammer changes in a second, is I want people to give me feedback. If you think something's not great, or you don't think it's, something can be improved, let me know. I'm working on it. Whenever I see feedback, I write it on my board, and I'm pretty much going to wait about a week, get all the feedback I can. Obviously, I'll keep thinking about that, so don't think after a week it's done. But I'm going to take as much as I can. I'm going to be like, all right, guys, let's see what we can do here to improve this map and make it competitive. Keep it competitive. Because the ideal goal of all maps in PvP should be, they should be competitive and should be able to be played in ranked arena. Mm-hmm. Now, there may be some in the future we come up with, like, let's just make a fun map. But right now, let's make all maps competitive. Right?
All right.
Let's make all maps competitive. So again, feedback, guys. I have a thread going on right now that is for feedback on all map changes. Let me know. Let me know how Spirit Watch goes. Let me know how Skyhammer goes. But let's go into Skyhammer.
Yes, please.
Skyhammer was the one that went through a lot of iterative changes, and I relied on the community to give me feedback as I was making these changes. So about a month ago, I started the thread on the forums, and I was like, hey guys, what would you keep? What would you change on Skyhammer, right? Mm-hmm. Because I wanted to know, because you know what? It's great for me to go into my own little world and be like, this is all the problems, and this is the way I'm going to solve them. But I wanted to make sure I got exactly the word of the mouth from the community.
Yeah. Turns out dev doesn't work that way.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely know that a lot of our assumptions were correct. But there was a couple that I was even like, you know what? Okay. Everybody gets one. Everybody gets one. Community, you got more than one, but that's all right. That's all right. There's a lot of you get a lot of ones. It's fine. But it really helped. It really did. I was really, really happy to, one, interact with the community and not get completely blasted, because anytime you talk about Skyhammer, especially with how it is, people seem to be a little negative. But actually, everybody was really positive. They really wanted to see change, and I was really happy to do that in the April release. Right? So let's talk about some changes. First thing, you cannot fall off the map and die unless you're at the Skyhammer, right? So you can't just get pushed off. There's no breakable panels that make you go underneath and die, fall to your death, and become worm food, and they're happy. They're not happy anymore because there's no food down there for them, but, that was one of the biggest changes, right? That was one of the biggest pain points we saw on the map that the community really said was, you know what? I liked that I had to know my surroundings. I had to, play smart. I knew there was there's places that I could really get, if I played wrong, I could be punished. However, the punishment was too high, right? Like, hey, if I got knocked back and I decapped the point, or I had to, maybe go around because I fell off a ledge or something, okay, that's really good. That was good play on that person's part, bad play on my part.
Right.
But in Skyrim, it was like, oh, you made a mistake?
You're
go
done.
back to base.
Yep,
Worm food.
Done because
Worms
you made
are
a tiny mistake.
Yeah, exactly. So we wanted to, let's go ahead and try this. Let's go ahead and remove that completely. Let's make it consistent with conquest maps. There's no other conquest map like that. There's no other conquest map where you make a huge a bad single decision where you just instantly die. No, skip downstate and die, right? There's nothing like that. So let's do that. So we railed it all up, took all the breakable panels out. Cool.
Okay.
What was the next one? So this was one that I thought was one, and then the community also thought was one as well, right? So it helped me to go, okay, cool, I'm on the same page as the community, which was the Skyhammer itself.
Right.
The Skyhammer is inconsistent with every other secondary mechanic other than Kylo. But Kylo was different, that everyone gets their own. There's a red treb and there's a blue treb. I know where the red treb is. I go stop you I kill your red treb. Now you got to go do something. Skyhammer is like, there's one point, and if I own it, I can rain death on the map. I don't have to charge it. I don't have to aim it. I just literally just click on the map and I am playing.
I am God.
Yeah,
now.
I'm God. I'm dropping bombs. I'm
Very
feeling like
angry
a
God.
boss, right?
Yeah.
And it was tons and tons of damage, huge AoE, It was at one point undodgeable, but now it is, at least now. That was a long time ago, but
Okay.
but still, like it was really strong, very very strong.
It was.
And it was a all game mechanic, right? It was as soon as the map started, somebody ran up there, someone blew you back, you fell to your death. It was really small platform to fight on, all these things, right? We made that. One of the things I talked to the community was like, what kind of secondary mechanic would you like to see on like all competitive maps? Do we want swing mechanics? Do we want snowball mechanics? Do we want periodic mechanics? Do we like all game mechanics? And I got a lot of really great feedback. The community gave me a lot of really great feedback, which I rolled it up and I was like, let's keep this as our mantra, right? Let's keep this as our mantra. This is what is okay for this is okay for that map. Here are the reasons why, right? So we decided to let's make it periodic, because a lot of people voted on periodic. So let's make it every 3 minutes. Let's make it a capture point, and let's make it a big range to fight on, right? Let's make it so you still can die, but you have to make a really bad decision to die, right? And let's give it let's keep the same mechanic of the Skyhammer still shooting all the points. So when you capture it, it shoots all the points. But let's give it a little bit more depth. It neutralizes all points you don't own. Doesn't capture the points for you, just neutralizes,
Okay.
right? So again, it makes it so that you can't play the super bunker meta and ignore the secondary, because if you're all on the points just camping them out and they get the Skyhammer, it neutralizes, now you got to fight for it again, right? So it adds a comeback mechanic, because it doesn't help me when I'm ahead, like capture points. It doesn't give me any team score, but if I'm behind, neutrals all the points, I can now play Conquest again because the event is done, and now we're back on the map, right? And that pretty much all came from the community, right? I had some ideas. I had a couple different things I wanted to try. But when I read that up, I was like, okay, let's try this thing and see if it works. And again, beta Skyhammer, right? Feedback. If you guys like it, let me know. If you guys don't like it and you want to see something a little different, let me know. Ideally, we want to get Skyhammer as competitive as possible, right? And maybe the answer is we can never get it competitive. And that's fine as well. But we're going to try. And with your feedback and stuff like that, we're going to do our best. When we feel like the map's good and competitive, or not competitive, but we feel like it's good, we remove the beta tag and we either leave it in unranked or we do allow it to be in ranked arena, right? And that all comes from you guys, the feedback from you guys. We need your guys' feedback. You guys need to let us know what you guys think, right? Because ideally we want it to be, right?
So, as a player, and after listening to the community over a couple days, where do you feel like Skyhammer is right now? Because it's probably not totally competitive.
Yeah.
Quite, it's not there.
No, and I mean, the thing is, obviously we need more time. That's the first thing. Second thing is I actually saw it's not 100% either way, right? Some people it's like, man,
it's better.
Yeah, it's better. We're seeing a lot more positive feedback because, boy, Skyhammer Threads, it was rough going into some of those. But
I've noticed.
But you know what? The feedback has been fairly positive. I've seen more positive than negatives, and the negatives they're not like saying the map is the current iteration's bad. They're saying it's not as unique, right? Because it does feel more consistent with other maps.
Right.
I agree with that. You know, the goal of that was to make it more consistent.
Right.
Make it a more consistent experience. Make it feel like you can take the same skills you learned in other maps, apply it to this map with its own little flavor, right?
Yeah.
Maybe we went too far. Right, and that's where I rely on you guys to give me the
we're
feedback.
finding out.
I need you guys to give me that feedback. Let me know some suggestions. You know, some people had some interesting suggestions already that I've heard, and I might act on them, I might not, depending on how I want to let the time go a little bit more and see what you guys think. But it's in beta, right?
And one of the things, as we were talking, that I was thinking about was like way back last year before Hot launched. One of the things that we were saying was, hey, it's a beta, it's an actual beta, not a free trial. It's we want you to bang on this and play with it and tell us what you think so we can act on that. And that's exactly what you're doing right now.
Exactly. And the big thing is, too, and that's why we have this kind of time period where ranked is turned off. It's a time where we can try things, beta some stuff, add some new amulets, have new balance, and we want to just have time to adapt, to change, to learn, and then give feedback, and then we can make those changes before ranked happens,
Right.
and then we can go straight into ranked and feel comfortable both on our side, knowing that the community has let us know, hey, this map was competitive, I would like it to go into competitive. Cool. We aren't making that decision because I would love to just throw everything in there, but that's not the point. It's not about me. Yeah, it's not about me. It's about the community. Right? You guys are playing the game, and like Tyler said, stewards. That's the way we should feel. We want you guys to have the experience you guys want.
Right.
Protect your game mode, right? If you guys feel like it's ready, I'm ready. It's seconds for me to put it in there, right? To put it in there, obviously going to run a bunch of builds. The seconds is actually a huge lie, but you know what I mean? It's very
I was sitting here going,
no, but it does take time. But it's easy for us to do these things. However, is it the right decision? That's
Right.
up to you guys, right?
Yeah.
That's up to you guys. So give me feedback on that stuff. It's really important. Very, very important. The other thing I did add a couple more things. One thing we added was some new amulets.
oh, yeah, yeah.
And the funny thing about this, I told Ruby this when
And
we
the
were practicing.
5, right?
Yeah. This is the 5X's. When I added these, when we thought about these amulets, I was like, okay, let's add some flavor. Let's add some more DPS variations for people to come up with some more unique things, unique builds. You know what? Because the stats are huge. It's one of the biggest parts of your build in PvP. And I came up with these, and I was like, okay, let's throw some of these together, and let's see how they play. I really liked them. I was like, okay, I don't know how big of an impact these are going to have, right? But let's try it. And all I've heard is really positive things. Everyone's like, oh, these are great. And I'm like, yeah, I'm the best. Oh, man. But you know what?
Then what happened?
Yeah. But then I was like, you know what? That shouldn't be the way it should be, right? I want the community to let me know. I want the community to let me know what you guys want, what kind of stat combos you want. And I kind of created a thread a while ago that kind of talked about this because some people were talking about it. But I want you guys to also let me know, what stats do you want to see, right? And the other thing, in that thread that I had, there was a couple of different stat combinations that people suggested, and I threw them together, and I was like, okay, let me play this on, because the guy also said a specific build. He's like, this is the build I run, and this would be really awesome to have, right? Cool. And I listed some guidelines, like you can't have main stat defensive stats, right? You can only have sub stats, because ideally we always want to push the meta to be more aggressive, more, so you just can't have like. Now there are a couple examples. Now, I'm sorry, that was for 4-stat amulets only. Let me clarify that, 4-stat amulets. But you know, I had a couple guidelines, and they came up with a couple of things, and I looked at it and I played it. I was like, yeah, this feels pretty good. You know, this could definitely be a thing. But then I was like, okay, let me look at some other meta builds, some other powerful builds at that time. And they blew out way
Everything
too
fell
high.
apart.
Yeah, I was like, oh my god, this is way too good. So I was like, okay, I can't do this. I can't do these yet. And that's why we released the two that I did, which were the more offensive ones. But I want you guys to give me feedback on stuff. I want you guys to be like, all right, Hugh, I really like these stat combos, and here's the reason why, and here's this class. But I also challenge you when you make these suggestions to also think about other builds, not just your own, that are in the meta or are good builds at that time, and see if they also will affect them, and be like, yeah, this is okay on Warrior, but this is a god
Right.
like on Necro,
And
right?
that's the thing. When we do this, you have to think about everything. You have to think about the meta and everything else that it could touch.
Exactly.
And what's this going to explode?
Exactly. And so that's what, like, for me, when I made these, I was like, these are very offensive, they're very safe. I feel very comfortable with them. And actually, I was really happy with the reply I got. They said Destroyer was really great. I love me some Destroyer, but that was really good. I was really happy with that one. But you know, but I think there's a million combinations out there that we could throw together,
Yeah.
really easily. But the impact, what is the impact, right? And
That's
so
where it gets tricky.
That's where it gets tricky, exactly. Because throwing these together is pretty simple, but I need to look at the whole picture of PvP and not make it so, yeah, your build's really great, but this guy's build ruins all the other people's builds day, right?
Ruins their day.
Ruins their day. I ain't about that life. I ain't about ruining someone's day.
Yeah, and you made it more complicated accidentally. Yesterday, while we were talking about this, he got overenthusiastic and named off a 5-stat something. I got very excited before he was like, "No, wait, I didn't."
No.
I was like, "Oh, so you ruined my day."
Yeah, well, that's
Yeah.
fine.
thought-
As soon as you're a player in game, I can't remember.
I thought there was like something really, really huge coming. And
I mean, I am not opposed to doing any stat combination that is suggested. That I will look at and mess around with and see and play, and then talk to Karl, talk to the balance guys, see what they think, because it's really important that we also bounce it off those guys as well. But
see if they cry.
yeah, most of the time I'm like, what if I did this? They're like, get out.
Yeah.
As I'm leaving, I'm like, I might do it anyways, and then they chase me down the hall, and then there's a fight that breaks out, and then there's a Street Fighter event, and I win, and then they tell me no still. But
See, this is why that chair was knocked over
That's-
in the
that's-
game
that's
room.
right.
I knew something happened. This is why there was furniture knocked over.
it's probably true.
Yeah.
It's probably true.
All right. So does this answer my question about what are you working on next?
Yeah, I mean, the big thing is I think Tyler said it best. Stewards. Ideally, we're waiting. I'm monitoring obviously PvP balance. Now I'm just forwarding that stuff off to the balance team. I'm not dealing with that but I am listening and watching
Nope.
PvP because I am also consider myself one of the protectors of PvP. Right, so giving feedback on balance in the
Picture you
PvP
standing
sector.
in front of.
Yeah, look at my lint roller. I'm like, I'll stop anything.
We're all screwed, you guys.
If I have a lint roller as a weapon, that guys might be a little rough.
Everybody's gonna stick to it. Nobody can get past.
That's right. That's right. But giving feedback on PvP.
Have a
No,
happy
obviously,
cloud.
that's right. Obviously, we have to think about the whole game when it comes to balance, right? Because we don't want to be like balancing for a specific game mode, right? Holistically, we have to think of the whole game. But giving feedback on specific things in PvP is never a bad thing.
Right.
And looking at it on a more grand scale side of thought is really good. Like I think, like this skill on Necro is really strong, but in raids it's good. It's used in raids. In PvE it's okay. In World v World it's godlike. In PvP it's overpowered. Right? You need to think of that. Like, okay, that's really strong everywhere. It's probably okay to tone that
We have
down.
a whole game.
Exactly. You got to think of that because a lot of. I mean, I definitely have played a lot of games where I'm like, It is my game, in my world, in my mode, and when I'm mad, everyone should be mad. I have been there and done that.
But there's other people that play. I don't care.
Yeah, no, I have definitely been there. But
Yeah.
I challenge again the PvP community to think about that when you make suggestions, when you think about the game mode. Will that affect PvE? Will that affect World v World? The change you're suggesting, that thing you're feeling, right? And then think about that and make suggestions, right? And don't just say, as I definitely see these threads again, I've been there before. This thing is overpowered. And that's it. That's the end of the statement. There's a exclamation point, maybe a question mark, maybe like a smiley face, happy face, a whale face. There's all kinds of emojis on the end of this thing. And I'm like,
I don't understand
cool.
why that's not helpful. What's your problem,
I look
Hugh?
at that and I go, all right, I guess we'll
Thank
just
you
delete
for-
them. I mean,
Thank you
that's,
for sharing.
Thank you. So again, pinpoint some things, right?
Yeah.
A lot of times, and I'm not saying that people don't do this because I've
There's
read some
amazing
books.
feedback.
I've
Yeah.
read some books on the forums of people giving feedback that is very precise, very accurate, and very good. And then I have the opposite, which is the guy who puts the like +1 symbol, and then he's like, "Yeah, they're broken." I'm like, that guy. Thank you.
Okay.
Done. This man knows what he's
Thank
talking
you.
about.
Well, I told you yesterday, someone whispered me in game and very seriously said, do not permit, just make it so mesmers aren't permitted in PvP. I said,
It'll
not only can't help you.
There'll be a new like voting thing. So you can do like Conquest, Stronghold, and Mesmerless Q. That'll be the next one down on the list there.
Again, kidding.
Yeah. But yeah, again, I challenge everybody. A lot of challenges because I want you guys to be invested in your game mode, but I want us to try to make sure that we can live up to those expectations,
Yeah.
right? I want to be able to listen to your guys' feedback and then make changes. Now, I'm not saying I will because you know what? Sometimes some of the suggestions are a little crazy.
Yeah.
A little crazy.
Sometimes you can't.
But I can't. Yeah,
Yeah.
sometimes it just won't. But the big thing is we want to be the stewards and we want you guys to be, to protect your game mode as
The
much
end
as we
goal
can
is
as
to
well.
make a better game.
That's right. For you guys.
For
right?
everybody.
For
Yeah.
everybody. So give us feedback. Let us know what you think. I really want to know about map stuff. I really want to know about amulet stuff, PvP specific stuff. And then balance, I'm always listening. I'm always writing down stuff and sending it over to Skills and Balance team because we want to make PvP as best we can.
Yeah. I think that's a good note to finish up on.
Yeah.
We have a game to keep making better.
That's right.
And
I have.
I have a legendary short bow to work on.
Ooh, that sounds like fun.
All right, guys, follow our channel on Twitch to not miss the show. Put it down. You can have it in a minute.
All right.
All good?
I'm good.
All right.
I'm all right.
Follow our channel here on Twitch so you don't miss our future live streams. And subscribe to our channel on YouTube so you don't miss our future videos. And we will see you on the next Guild Chat.
Bye, guys.